Welcome back to our channel, where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today, we bring you some news. Prince William is furious about Camilla's revelation regarding the DNA of Diana's secret son. In the wake of the DNA revelation about Diana's secret son, an insider said that tensions between Prince William and Camilla had escalated significantly. This follows the disclosure of Diana's clandestine son. Prince William said that Camilla should stay uninvolved in the dispute when he omitted her from the guest list for his mother's awards ceremony, scheduled for the later part of 2025. This was the turning point. On a warm April morning, shortly before 9 o'clock, a royal courier in plain attire successfully infiltrated the side gate of Clarence's house. His only item was a manila folder. He did not have a crest or a ribbon-bound correspondence. Queen Camilla's collapse transpired within an hour, with her most trusted advisors there at that moment. While working in his office at Kensington Palace, Prince William paced the room with clenched fists, seeking answers that no one was willing to deliver. The incident occurred during the daytime. As darkness descended, newsrooms across 3 continents pursued an unsubstantiated headline that jeopardized the whole line of succession: Secret Son of Diana? A DNA bombshell causes the crown to tremble. A leak transpired, a frenzy ensued, and a social media maelstrom erupted inside those hallowed confines. In several respects, the events outside those walls exemplify a modern royal upheaval. The catalyst, however, was far from ordinary. 2 senior royal advisors, speaking anonymously, indicated that Queen Camilla received a laboratory report establishing a 99% maternal match between a 38-year-old British expatriate and Diana, Princess of Wales, a match deemed virtually impossible by geneticists. The aides stated that the King's Secret Council was the original intended recipient of the document. Camilla chose to read it first and quickly felt apprehensive that it would undermine all her efforts since the late princess's death over 30 years ago. There exists one counterstrike, one ban, and one grudge. Only a few days had elapsed since Camilla and the Prince of Wales publicly disclosed the dissolution of their relationship. The Diana Award, a distinguished charitable accolade for youth, was central to the scenario and was scheduled for presentation in December 2025. Prince William, the eldest son of Diana, had subtly directed the event organizers to exclude the Queen Consort from the presenting party. Sources acquainted with the circumstances indicate that he contended her presence would obscure the symbolism of an evening devoted to his mother's remembrance. Rumors circulated that Prince William discreetly disclosed the decision to the Times in the Mail, and by the time breakfast arrived, Camilla was reportedly incandescent. The remarks of a courtier who has served 4 distinct sovereigns are as follows. She interpreted it as an act of humiliation. The courtier also states that the Queen's fury was not quite immediate. From her viewpoint, William was exploiting his mother's revered memory to marginalize her once more. After closing the curtains, she withdrew behind them, conversed with her inner circle, and awaited developments. Subsequently, the folder appeared. The identity of Subject 7A became clear. For several years, the person at the heart of the issue has resided in the Italian Lakes region under an assumed identity. He's been working as a designer of wooden racing skulls over this whole period. Subject 7A is a designation used in palace terminology. Friends describe the use of genealogy kits as a leisure activity. The findings of a test done in February revealed remote connections to the Spencer clan. A subsequent test conducted by a laboratory in Geneva using public forensic data from Britain explicitly implicated the top echelons of the royal hierarchy. A former MI5 liaison familiar with royal protocols recalls that the result activated all internal alerts. We assign the utmost security classification to any sample exhibiting close agreement with Diana's preserved DNA. Typically, a finding of this kind would quickly become obscured by the intricate network of secrecy agreements upheld by the palace. Destiny, or more accurately tragedy, placed the report on Camilla's desk at her most vulnerable moment. Staff members feel that she saw both danger and potential inside it. She saw it as a danger to Charles's authority, but also regarded it as a formidable leverage in her continuous struggle for power against his successor. The throne was shaken by the empirical evidence. What are the criteria for establishing maternity with absolute certainty? In other words, the evidence is extremely limited. The DNA sequence of Diana, preserved by French authorities after her 1997 accident in Paris and later secured by the Metropolitan Police, has been cited in a limited number of forensic cross-references, none of which have been disclosed to the public. The medical study on genetic predispositions to cervical cancer facilitated the digitization of some portions of this information in 2023. Critics said that this strategy heightened the probability of illegitimate matches transpiring. Comparison was made between Subject 7A and a digital database with 687,000 autosomal markers in the Geneva report, which has now been verified by 3 different sources. The research indicates that the match was functionally identical to a full-blood parent-child relationship. However, the matter of paternity remains unresolved, since neither King Charles nor any other potential father submitted a sample. The maternal certainty, however, compelled Camilla to halt abruptly. Should the general public acknowledge the facts and the young man choose to assert a claim, the moral, legal, and symbolic ramifications might fundamentally alter the existing royal structures. While Prince Harry maintained silence, Prince William expressed intense anger. Although word of Camilla's fainting event arrived at Kensington in about an hour, William did not learn the cause until late afternoon when his private secretary interrupted a briefing intended for King Charles. Witnesses characterized the prince's reaction as volcanic. He demanded the original laboratory data, alleged collusion among courtiers with his stepmother, and cautioned that any attempt to exploit his mother's legacy would be met with unrelenting force. The information reached Prince Harry, who lives in California, on the same day. Since Easter, when a family WhatsApp group disbanded due to mutual accusations over Camilla's coronation anniversary arrangements, the brothers have not spoken directly. An Archewell spokesperson refrained from commenting, however. A confidant of the Montecito family conveyed that the Duke was stunned, devastated, and profoundly inquisitive, while simultaneously being resolute in avoiding palace intrigues. It remains uncertain whether the prospect of a shared lineage with a potential new sibling will facilitate reconciliation. This situation involves Queen Camilla's considerations. What may potentially compel the Queen Consort to disrupt the succession? A prevailing notion among prominent journalists is that Camilla intended to use the DNA file more as a means of private leverage than as a public weapon. Such evidence may indicate that William's moral superiority is vulnerable to the same hereditary complexities that previously affected Charles and Camilla's relationship. Dr. Lavinia Morton, a historian and author of The Second Wife Syndrome, asserts her mindset has always been survival. She has the capacity to warn William that the past poses a threat to everyone, should he demean her over Diana's legacy. Nevertheless, some individuals familiar with the circumstances assert that Camilla did not recognize the volatile potential she was endeavoring to control. Within 24 hours, the document's dissemination became uncontrolled, first acquired by a junior equerry, then transmitted to an external attorney, and eventually posted to the encrypted servers of many media outlets. In a period of unparalleled stress, the leak seems to have resulted more from mismanagement than from a deliberate action. Westminster responded quietly. The issue reached Downing Street 2 days later. Constitutional scholars stressed that even if Subject 7A were verified as Diana's son, he would be positioned after William and Harry in the line of succession. This is because only legitimate offspring from the union of Charles and Diana have succession rights. However, the symbolic implications filled Whitehall with trepidation. The author obtained a cabinet note that cautioned against a public empathy flashback to 1997 levels and recommended that the sovereign deliver a measured, humane response that recognizes personal complexity while affirming stability. In essence, it advocates for a display of humanity and the avoidance of panic. The note was more candid regarding the behavior of backbenchers in Parliament. Following the DNA findings, the Scottish National Party called for an inquiry into the potential use of public funds to conceal the information. Notwithstanding Speaker Lindsay Hoyle's admonition against politicizing private grief, a minority of anti-monarchist parliamentarians suggested convening emergency hearings over royal openness. Who is the one responsible for the marker? Who is this rowing boat craftsman who may be Diana's firstborn offspring? His acquaintances describe him as quiet, nearly pastoral, dedicated to listening to classical guitar and studying lake ecology. He has never claimed his royal entitlement, sought judicial intervention, or promoted his story. He was raised bilingual, with a British accent, an Italian temperament, and always haunted by a sense of being observed. A childhood friend recalls a portrait of a woman with fair hair that adorned the fireplace in his grandmother's home. The family designated her as an English cousin. The surveillance was, in fact, authentic. The Royalty and Specialist Protection Division of MI5 initiated a covert file in March, following the Geneva Laboratory's identification of an identity of national sensitivity. Officers monitoring the individual have noted that they attend church on Sundays, cultivate tomatoes, and operate a damaged Fiat Panda. A member of the security team remarked, "He is the most ordinary yet extraordinary man I have ever observed. To put it bluntly, he is polite. He does not break any traffic laws as a pedestrian." At this point in time, Diana's chronology is missing a chapter. To what extent was it feasible for the late princess to conceive and deliver a child in absolute secrecy? Previously, biographers dismissed this notion as fictional. However, archival research by Aidan Cho, a writer for the Daily Chronicle, has revealed an anomalous 11-week interval between Diana's final pre-wedding engagement in February 1981 and her subsequent appearance at a polo match in May of the same year. The palace attributed this hiatus to prenuptial exhaustion. Royal observers are now scrutinizing this period for clandestine clinics, remote Scottish estates, and even repurposed royal infirmaries. Dr. Mira Patel, a consultant obstetrician specializing in high-profile concealed pregnancies, asserts that wealth, privilege, and global mobility can obscure nearly anything if there is institutional intent. Consequently, the pertinent inquiry transcends the mere question of whether Diana gave birth. It concerns whether the crown facilitated an adoption to preserve the facade of an unwed bride. A digital explosion has transpired. A 93-second video was uploaded to a website hosted in Iceland on May 21. An anonymous individual whose face was partially shrouded in darkness spoke in a composed manner, stating, "I do not seek a throne, but I seek the mother whose voice the world still hears." Although he did not explicitly mention Diana, he displayed a St. Christopher necklace reminiscent of the one worn by the princess during her last solo trip to New York in 1995. Attorneys removed the video from the internet within an hour, citing copyright claims over historical images as the reason. However, akin to monarchies, the internet lacks a delete key. In the lead-up to Eurovision, Diana-san trended on social media. Royal Communications endeavored to implement the traditional script, incorporating a no-comment statement alongside a meticulously orchestrated photo opportunity featuring Charles and Camilla visiting flood victims. However, the visual presentation proved ineffective. The contrived display of sympathy failed to resonate with millions, as the image of a startled future monarch held greater significance. The phrase is confrontation. It has been confirmed by sources within Windsor that Prince William visited Clarence House unannounced on the evening of May 22. Witnesses reported overhearing a heated exchange, during which William accused Camilla of weaponizing Mom, to which Camilla responded that William does not own grief. King Charles intervened, insisting that the situation be subdued. However, the two senior heirs left without resolving their disputes. After midnight, William returned to Adelaide Cottage and subsequently cancelled a scheduled appointment for the following morning for personal reasons. The courtiers are apprehensive that the divide may exceed the protracted conflict between William and Harry. An aide stated, "This issue is not about the spare versus the heir. The crux of the problem is whose memory governs the emotional direction of the kingdom. Challenges facing the monarch." The controversy is profoundly personal for Charles I, who ascended to the throne less than 2 years ago after a lifetime of anticipation. The acknowledgement of the DNA as legitimate would facilitate discourse regarding Diana's life prior to her marriage, as well as his own early awareness. Detractors risk conveying the impression of truth suppression. According to sources, Buckingham's current strategy is judicious verification, which involves discreetly commissioning parallel tests, maintaining avenues for a private meeting, and hoping that the young individual refrains from litigation or further commentary. However, Charles is pressed for time. William's decision to exclude Camilla has already set the stage for the Diana Award dinner in December. If they reveal the elusive son, every camera will be ready to capture him. The palace strategists are preparing a comprehensive series of contingency plans, detailing protocols for various scenarios, including his attendance, speech, heckling, or embrace. Experts and the public have collectively expressed their opinions. The results of a YouGov survey conducted overnight indicated that 54% of British citizens express sympathy towards the alleged son, while 47% feel frustration regarding the palace's silence. For a monarchy reliant on younger generations, the sympathetic percentage rises to 68% among individuals aged 18 to 34. Tabloids consistently feature a fluctuating narrative of triumph. Diana lives on their front pages in treachery, usurper in waiting. During this period, broadsheets are expressing ethical apprehensions over genetic voyeurism. Professor Elaine Farrell, a sociologist at Queen's University Belfast, articulates the situation as follows. We are here to witness a referendum on the emotional legitimacy of the monarchy. Diana remains the most revered figure in its history. Any live representation of her, irrespective of its unintentional nature, rekindles a national sorrow which is fundamentally political. Legal perspectives. Should the issue be presented in court, Sir Alan Grafton? KC asserts that English succession law dictates that legitimacy is conferred at birth, thereby recognizing only those children born within lawful marriage as legitimate. Consequently, Subject 7a's birth outside the union of Charles and Diana renders him ineligible, regardless of his birth occurring prior to William's. However, Grafton admits that the Crown has the power to grant titles, property, or money through official documents, especially if there is public demand for fairness. A distinct arena, defamation, is a concern that prominent royal counsel privately apprehend. William may initiate legal action against Camilla for inflicting reputational damage on his mother if she claims that DNA evidence substantiates adultery. Conversely, Camilla might invoke the public interest defense. Regardless, the family would have to testify under oath, a situation that most royals would actively avoid. This presents a delicate balance for the media. The editors remain cognizant of the backlash from the 2010s following the phone hacking scandal and proceed with prudence. Although the BBC continues to grapple with the repercussions of the Bashir Panorama controversy, it asserts that it will meticulously scrutinize every word before associating the term secret son with Diana's name. However, the allure of ratings is compelling. Concurrently, real-life producers are strategizing the release of documentaries ahead of Christmas, while streaming behemoths await dramatists to reinterpret the narrative through their characters. Sources close to the man have verified that discussions have occurred between Netflix, Disney+, and Sky. Hysteria is commercially viable, and it proliferates, warned Sarah Kendrick, an experienced royal correspondent, regarding the risk of a feedback loop. Kendrick posits that the forthcoming pivotal moment will be William's decision to address the public prior to the Trooping the Color Balcony event next month. She contends that this choice will accelerate the cycle within the palace. With merely a fleeting expression of tension, the internet will proclaim a state of civil war. This is the ethical tempest. Raw emotion transcends the boundaries of law and media. In the case of William and Harry, the revelation deeply resonates with their mother's memories. Friends of the princes report varying instances of confusion, anger, and, most surprisingly, empathy regarding their circumstances. If he is genuine, remarks a shared confidant, they both comprehend the absence of companionship that he presumably endures. Despite having never known her, he faces a challenging decision to reconcile his feelings of empathy with his allegiance to the institution. Amidst ongoing events, Camilla is grappling with her legacy. After 2 decades of shaping public perception, she faces accusations of revisiting her past to secure a strategic advantage. Even royalists, who once embraced her role, now harbor resentment toward the notion that they are exploiting Diana's allure. Palace image consultants are deliberating a televised apology, yet they fear it may be interpreted as an admission of guilt. This is the forthcoming route. Containment, engagement, and resolution are the 3 concepts that crisis managers at Buckingham propose to navigate the forthcoming days. Containment of the leaks is no longer feasible, as they have become pervasive. Consequently, engagement involves meticulously orchestrated interactions that convey empathy while preserving the royal mystique. The challenge lies in identifying a resolution. One possibility is to convene Subject 7A for a private audience with the king, with Archbishop Welby acting as the pastoral mediator. The meeting would be succeeded by a succinct public statement acknowledging personal revelations of significant sensitivity. Alternatively, one might opt for a resolute silence, anticipating that public fatigue over the scandal will surpass interest. History rarely favors royal obfuscations. Every scandal flourished due to the compromise of genuineness, such as Edward VI's abdication, Andrew's waning public appeal, and Harry's involvement in the Sussex controversy. Relatability is the cornerstone of contemporary monarchy, asserts Dr. Morton. Ignoring past events will transport you back to 1936. Confronting the issues will enable you to exert some influence over the narrative. Diana's indomitable shadow remains. In the nave of Westminster Abbey, illuminated by candles, a small marble inscription reads, "The work goes on, the cause endures, the hope lives, and the dream shall never die." Many argue that Diana penned this phrase despite its origins in American politics. Her designation as Britain's people's princess remains unaltered. She symbolizes vulnerability, depicted as a virtue. The gates of Kensington are perpetually adorned with flowers on each anniversary. Every new bride donning lace will inevitably encounter her. She has transcended mere metaphorical representation. This entity consists of nucleotides, helices, and a living individual who seems to mirror her head tilt and half smile. This creature presents a destabilizing prospect for those loyal to the monarchy. An unfinished maternal narrative and a salvaged son's existence exemplify what many ordinary Britons perceive as a poetic redemption. The crown finds itself in conflict with its own legacy. As the sun sets this evening, Buckingham Palace illuminates magnificently beneath floodlit statues of Victoria, with tourists capturing photographs and beefeaters performing their traditional dance for the audience. Conversely, behind the marble fayade, phone lines crackle, shredders whir, and advisors formulate statements for every conceivable eventuality. The question is whether Prince William will address the media with a shaky voice and embrace the brother he has never truly known. Is it conceivable that Queen Camilla might pursue absolution rather than advantage? Will people recognize King Charles, the longest-waiting monarch, for his ability to heal or for his tendency to hide? The responses remain suspended in the quiet atmosphere of a nation that is both weary of scandal and endlessly fascinated by the family that embodies it. The most sensitive information about the monarchy currently lies in an unmarked, discreet, and alarming package. Moreover, secrets akin to blood possess an uncanny propensity to surface. The House of Windsor confronts a dilemma as Britain observes. They may either opt to conceal the truth, jeopardizing their foundations, or confront the past, trusting that the crown can bear the burden of Diana's enduring legacy. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.